Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Bit of a different video for you this time. I'm currently in a place called Murtoa, which is a little country town I grew up in. It's in the Wimmera district of Victoria. It's a farming area. It's only a small town, but we're back here for the weekend because the town's having 150th celebrations. It's 150 years since the first settlers came here, and a part of the first settling group was my ancestors. So my family have been here for a long time. I thought I'd take this chance to just do a bit of a video here. I'm going to take you through the local museum. We'll have a look at some interesting stuff. There might even be a guessing game. So come along for the ride. I think you'll have a bit of fun. Firstly, we'll just scan down the main street and show you, well, it's actually busy this morning. Normally it's a bit of a ghost town. The population's only about 900 people, but we'll have a bit of a walk around and we'll head to the museum. This is the main shopping precinct. They've actually blocked off the street down there because there's a car show and shine, and they've just had the official speeches. But what you're looking at is the busiest part of the shopping centre, and normally you'd only see 2 or 3 cars here unless it's maybe a Saturday morning or something. So it's a sleepy little quiet farming community. It was a great place to grow up. That's the old police residence. There's some nice old buildings here, and we'll walk across the road here. I'm pretty unlikely to get run over. I think there's very few traffic incidents in a town this size, although in saying that, my dad actually ran into a car just the other day and there's a little bit of insurance discussion going on there. Anyway, that's not your concern. This lane we're going to walk down heads to the museum, and some of you will know my last name, Anders. So this lane is in honour of my great-great-grandfather who first settled here. They were of German descent and they came through from South Australia in the 1870s. So let's wander down Anders Lane. It's not very grand, but I guess it's something. Now the museum's in the old water tower, and you can just see it poking above the trees there. This was the water tower for the railways, and like a lot of country Australian towns, the railways really developed the area. The industry around here is pretty much cropping, broadacre cropping, so farming. There's also some sheep run, but it's great cropping land, and of course the railways opened up the country and allowed a lot of transport of the grain, and then you had all your secondary businesses spring up to help support the farmers. Some places took off and became cities, some places stayed little towns like Murtoa, other places dwindled and really there's nothing left now except maybe some silos alongside the railway track. There's quite a few people over here, so I'll try and film little bits of the museum when we can. I did check yesterday and they were happy for me to film. So a part of the museum precinct is the railway station. The railway line still comes through town and the trains do come through here, but there's no passenger service anymore, so it's mainly just freight trains. But the railway station has been turned into a bit of a museum, which we'll have a look at shortly. And of course the water tower, well, back in the early days the steam trains needed water, and that was the purpose of that tower. I believe there was a family lived in that tower. I think it was built in 1878 the railways come through, so maybe about 1880. We'll check that out. Okay, let's go into the water tower museum. You can see the big steel tank up on top. It would have held quite a lot of water. It's amazing that this structure is still in such good condition for standing here for well over 100 years. I think, well, 150 thereabouts, close to. What's the date? Centenary plaque says 1986, so 1886 this was built. Let's go inside and have a look. There's no one in here just at the moment. And we start on the first floor. Beautiful old original pine floorboards. Daryl, the guy that's running it this morning, was just out talking to some people. And on the first floor we have a collection of birds. It's a taxidermy collection, and it, I think, is over 100 years old itself, done by an early... I don't know that he was he must have been a resident of the area, but I don't know that he collected these from around here. But they're beautifully displayed in nice old cases. Magnificent. They look a little creepy, some of them, like a lot of stuffed animals do. Mainly birds. I think they're all birds, actually. And it's a fantastic collection, beautifully displayed. It's good that they've got a home. I don't know where they've resided for the last 100 years before they came to here. There's certainly some birds and things that you don't find in this area. And here we go, here's a photo, if we can get the angle here. Here was James Hill and his wife Helen, and I'm not sure if there's a date when this was actually put together. We looked at this yesterday and we're pretty sure that his wife may have been stuffed before that photo. Her eyes are very unnatural, but we best not go into that. Daryl, do you know when this collection was put together? The Taxidermy Collection?
I'm not sure when it was actually put together. Like James Hill passed away in 1932, so he's been gone 90 odd years now. But
yeah. Well, the collection would be 100 years at least, wouldn't it?
Oh, look, it would be 100 and goodness knows how many years old. So
that's incredible. Yeah, isn't it a pelican?
Yeah, he was born 1850, so sort of coming here in his 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, it's great that they've got a home. All right, we're going to go up the stairs now. There is 4 stories to this structure, and the stairs kind of add to the character. They're not for the faint-hearted, but they're quite solid. And this level, we have a lot of photographs and memorabilia from the district, including all the little towns nearby that are no longer towns. For example, the Corombi School. Corombi is a little area just out to the north of town, and it's pretty much only tennis courts and a public hall and I think a fire shed now. Ashens is another area. So it's a great home for all the old signage and lots of early pioneer photos. Not so interesting probably this floor to people that don't know Murtoa, but certainly any that have relatives here or something to do with history. You could spend hours reading in here and looking at all the photos. So really interesting, very well displayed. Have a look at the timbers that are holding up this place. Amazing. And we were just discussing out the front how on earth they got the big tank up on top in 1886 when you had no hydraulic cranes and that sort of thing. So really interesting. Lots of the early sites of Murtoa. Hotels, old industry. This large hotel is still actually in existence, and it's been not really derelict but empty for some time, and I believe it's being restored. In fact, this is all the same building. Of course, a photo of the Queen, who has recently departed the earth. A bit of china and things that relate to the town. See, there's a souvenir jug showing the memorial gates at Murtoa. So I like that it's all stuff relating to the area and not just a general museum of old things that don't have any connection. Looks like they've even saved some pieces of something. Signs that would hang around the town, lots of honour boards of people that were involved in various clubs and committees and that sort of stuff. Past presidents of the Jung ANA, which was Australian Natives Association, which was like I think it was like a health fund. And there's some people on here that were probably related to me. My mother was related to the Maddens, and that's in Jung, which is another nearby town. There are still a few houses there, but it's barely called a town. We have World War honour boards, Roll of Honours, that's Second World War. So a lot of local town names there. This is a really nice Roll of Honour. Hopefield State School. Hopefield isn't even, it's a place where something was. It's pretty much just paddocks and the railway track, and there's an honour, Roll of Honour there of people from the state school who gave the supreme sacrifice. That would have been World War I, yep, 1914 to 1919. Beautiful Art Nouveau design. Look at that typical tulip type Art Nouveau pattern in the brass there. So there's some really interesting stuff to see. So let's go up to the next floor. More rickety stairs. If you hear any creaking, they're probably my knees rather than the stairs. You know, we're getting old a bit. This floor is really interesting. We have a lot of stuff that I like and we find for our shops, and things that we get to save from being thrown out, you know, being the ultimate recycler. But there's lots of things here I could use as mystery objects, but I'll tell you that's a wire strainer. Incomplete though, but an old fencing tool. Here's the old black and white TV. Pretty cool, hey? And this was the first TV in Murtoa, donated by the Karras family. Well, the Karrases used to actually have an electrical store in town when I was growing up in the 70s, so they've obviously kept the first TV that was ever in Murtoa. Early model Hoover single tub washer with wringer. And there's an even older washing machine, which is simply a galvanised tub and, whoops, don't wreck the display, and a huge brass plunger. The pin's missing, and basically that cone just gets stamped up and down on your clothes, and that's what washes them. So it's really only one step above scrubbing them in a creek with a rock. We have lots of old cast iron stuff here. There is coffee grinders, kerosene stove, a cake mixer. I'm not sure why they need to label it non-electric. I thought it was pretty obvious. We have a butter churn, a stamp dispenser, 2 cents for a stamp, a knife cleaner. So it's pretty good to look around these museums, if only to help you remember what things are. This is a railway lantern wick trimmer. Now, I don't think I would have known that. A nice model there of an early moldboard plough. So we'll scan around here. I hope you find this interesting. I certainly do. I could spend a lot of time looking around here. Lots of old blacksmith tools in a barrel. That's a draw knife. I've pointed out a draw knife in some of my videos previously. Sheep shears are pretty common around this area. That's a valve spring compressor. I wonder if they even know what that is. Looks like it would still work. Some early barbed wire. How primitive does that look? You may not be able to see that in the sunshine. A buggy wheel up on the wall. Again, we have another massive big timber beam supporting the weight. I'm not sure what the tank would have held at the top, but it would have put a lot of weight on the supporting structure. So we have lots of little knickknacks, more museum type things here donated by local families. Some of them could have been awards or prizes. There's some cameras down the bottom. Possibly would have been used somewhere around here. There's a sign there for the Corombi Brass Band. Brass bands were pretty big in the early times in local country towns. Some little scales there. Blacksmith tongs. Christine was looking at this sewing machine yesterday when we ducked in quickly. Really early. It's a Singer, but you don't see them with the square body very often. And I think that was more an industrial one. It would have been used in town here. Making side curtains for early tourer motor cars. Around 1930s. I'd say that machine dates a lot earlier than that. Let's keep doing a lap. It sounds like there's more people coming down below, so we'll go up to the next level. Oh, here we have some indigenous relics, which are found a lot around the area. There's old grinding bowls for their food. There's a stone axe here. Look how beautifully they've polished the end of that. And that stone wouldn't be natural to this area. It would have been traded among the tribes of Aboriginals back in the time. Who knows how old that is? It could have been passed down through countless generations, and it's turned up here. I presume because it's a proper museum, they're allowed to display these artefacts. I know you have to be very careful if you find them. You're not supposed to remove them from their natural environment, but it's nice to see a display there. Some old camp ovens and a water fountain, which would have sat on a wood stove for heating of the water during the day, or hung over a little tripod crane on your open fire. Lots more knickknacks and china. That's all souvenir china from Murtoa, most of it depicting the memorial gates. Some old bottles, which of course is something I'm interested in, and these are Murtoa ones. Hatchet was a soft drink manufacturer in Murtoa, and that's a ginger beer bottle. And then there's another little one there. That's a cod bottle, would have had lemonade in it. So a really great display, and I like that they've kept a lot of stuff from history, even if it's not particularly valuable. There's a coffee jar there. Good to have the original label on it. So let's go up the next flight. What do we got up here? There's some signs, and there's a large horse collar hanging on the wall here. This is when they used draft horses to pull the machinery. Of course, pre-tractor days, so probably pre-1930. I think there would have been tractors starting to come into the area around 1930s. I think my grandfather still used a horse team on the farm. All right, it's getting a bit echoey up here because the roof line has changed. We have the bottom of the large water tank. Look at the riveted steel. And yes, how on earth would they have got that tank up on top here? It's possible I was suggesting that maybe the tank might have rested on the ground and they just basically bricked around underneath it, lifted it up a few feet, put a base layer of bricks or foundations, and then just kept jacking it up and adding new layers of bricks until they got 4 stories high. I don't know how else they would have done it, so if you've got any ideas, let me know in the comments. Quite echoey up here. There's not actually a lot of stuff. I think it's probably more storage up the top floor. I don't know how they got these cabinets up the stairs. This was interesting. I suspect it was I'll get out of the light so you can see it better. It's not labelled, but I think it was a bottle filling machine. There's a pad where you put the base of the bottle. Up under this section it feels like a spring-loaded valve, and the pedal at the bottom probably operated releasing pressurised liquid into the bottle perhaps. Quite an early machine, solid cast iron. It's actually named the Barnacle. So that would have been awfully heavy to drag up the stairs. A nice little stove, some old padlocks and knickknacks here. It looks like a lot of this stuff hasn't really been catalogued or labelled yet. That looks like a World War II mortar shell, minus the tail fin and the contents. Some really cool old ladders, and there's a winch assembly here which would probably be original to the building to winch large items, and perhaps that's how they got the heavy things up here recently. Perhaps the winch still works out that door, and there's a big overhead pulley that goes all the way to the ground. Beautiful old organ here, a pump organ. We do get these sometimes in house deals, and they're as magnificent as they look. They're very, very hard to sell, but they're a great old piece of furniture. Jacobean couch, probably just, I don't know, unless it came out of some house in Murtoa that was notable. A really nice big honour board here from the Great European War, World War I. Past Scholars of SS, which is the state school that I actually went to, number 1549 Murtoa, who enlisted for active service abroad. And there's a relative here of my family's, and a lot of these names are well known around the district even now, and I presume they're the ones with the crosses against people that didn't come back from the war. So what a magnificent piece, that one. I don't know where that would have hung. It may have been in one of the big halls in Murtoa, and it's really nice that they've saved these and they've got a home. There's some more honour rolls here, roll of honour here from World War I, and this one's World War II, and they're scholars and teachers of Corombi State School, which was just out the road. So yeah, nice that they're preserved. A big Advance Australia sign, I don't know where that one came from. So that pretty well ends our tour of the museum, at least as far as the water tower goes. We've got a couple of other spots to look, well, at least one other spot to look, and a quick view out the window, and you can see we're up pretty high. You can see over in the distance there's the stick shed, which I did a video on. I'll try and link that. Big World War II emergency grain storage facility, and there's the old mill over that side, which I might do a video one other time. There's some massive big engines in the mill there that apparently could produce enough electricity to power the town back in the early days. So there we go, that finishes the Water Tower Museum tour. We'll go down and have a look in another little building, which we might be able to see out of this window. There's the roof of it down there, and that's part of the original Concordia College, which was a Lutheran college built in the 1800s, and they've actually moved that building to here. So they've got some interesting stuff there. We'll go and have a look at that too. And here's the platform at the Murtoa railway station. It is actually the main railway line from Melbourne to Adelaide. So there's still quite a lot of train traffic on here, but unfortunately there's no pedestrian or no passenger service here to Murtoa these days. The station building has just been restored, but the station itself is a lot different from how I remember it as a kid. The signal box is gone, a lot of the storage sheds are gone, or good sheds. And I can remember this platform being so much bigger when I was younger. I guess that happens. But let's have a look in the building. They've restored it all. They're using it as a bit of a museum now, and they've done a fantastic job. And the first thing I'm going to show you is a local guy I know here has spent a good part of his life making this model. How good is this? It's a model, and this is how I remember Murtoa Station. He's recreated all the buildings. There's steam trains there, all the little branch lines, and a turntable, which I think the ruins of it are still out along the tracks there, but it's, of course, there's no tracks to it anymore. Good sheds. That's the signal box that I remember. There's the bridge that's down near the lake now. The Railway Hotel has changed somewhat. There's the water tower that we were just in. So what a great model, and he's spent absolutely countless hours doing it, thousands of hours I'd suggest, and he's even made the old silos here from the mill, and in the distance painted on the board is the stick shed again. So fantastic job, and I believe John was happy to get it out of his shed. It's been in his shed just about all his life. So yeah, awesome job, and a great representation of what this station was in its busier times, with a lot of railway workers and a lot more traffic, certainly passenger traffic. So to scan around the building here, we have some signs again, and there's a 1952 aerial view of what the station was like, and plans. There was a steam rail, I can remember that coming through in the 1980s. Some of the old furniture that was in the room here, the old trolleys and things. Lots of pictures again, really well done. Most of it, of course, railways related, as you'd expect. And there were a lot of railway families in these small towns along the main lines, because there was gangers to keep the track in order, and there was, of course, drivers and guardsmen and all the other associated people, station masters. Here's the trolley that I do remember going up and down on the platform with luggage on it, and a lot of cast iron bits here. These are actually brake blocks off the train. They're solid cast iron, and they would rub on the train wheels when you actually had to put the brakes on. There's various dog spikes that hold the tracks down, and lots of other bits and pieces relating to the railways, of course. And this was interesting. It's a derail block. It was placed at the end of the siding so that trains being shunted could not be pushed too far and end up on the road. Instead, the train would derail. So I guess part of the wheel rode up on this section and it actually pushed it off the track. Not ideal, but better than the train actually going onto the road. So we come through to this other side. There's a few more Murtoa bottles here. Here's another cod bottle. I have one of those in my collection. And we have more mystery objects. It sounds like we've got some more people coming in here and some kids. So here's a mystery object. What am I? Please comment. They haven't actually named it. And it looks like some sort of winder. It's similar to the apple peelers you used to get, but I don't think it's a peeler. And people have guessed a bandage winder, a rope maker, a rabbit skinner. I don't know how that would work. An oscillating decrapinator. I think someone's been a little bit imaginative there. Winder, rope maker, peeler. Yeah, useless tripod steely thing. Well, there's an intelligent guess, and someone's ticked it. I probably think a bandage winder might be the most obvious there. And this large one is a yarn winder, which looks pretty obvious. We probably shouldn't call it a yarn spinner, because that kind of denotes someone that likes to tell a lot of long-winded stories. Perhaps I could fall into that category. This one's pretty cool. This is, I won't show you the tag yet. It's a washing machine. Again, a portable washing machine. How's that for modern technology? Put your arm muscles into that and just dump it up and down on your clothing. It's the Osmond Little Marvel hand washing machine. What a marvel, eh? Here we have a petrol iron, which was basically you put flammable liquid in the reservoir and it heats up the iron. Highly dangerous work ironing clothes. That's a coal iron, which you would put hot coals in it. And again, it provides the heat to iron your clothes. So they would probably come out flat, but slightly black. I have not seen one of these before, and I was just reading this before, a candle maker. So from what I can gather, you put a little mould here with your wax in it. There's a little gas line here, so you heated it somehow, melted the wax, possibly pressed the wax down so there was no air bubbles. A spring-loaded plunger. And this has something to do with scraping the top of it off while still leaving the wick sticking up. At least that's what they said, and then they followed with "we think." So yeah, if you know any better, let me know. There's a little lighting protector device here, sacrificial device to protect power lines from a lightning strike. I guess they were just like a fuse that blew. And I've seen one of these before. This is a candle mould. So you'd see this end, it looks like the tops of candles. So you would thread the wick through those little holes, tie the wick off on a piece of string so it sat central in the tube, and then filled the hollows with wax to make your own candles. I'm not sure how you would have got them out. Perhaps you needed to coat it with some sort of something that the wax didn't stick to slide them out. Interesting. So some nice little museum pieces here. This is the actual booking area where I can actually remember buying tickets for the train way back when they would take passengers. So they've done a great job with this station. I'm glad that the old building has been restored. Let's go and have a look at the last place in this historic precinct. Okay, if you're not sick of my voice yet, let's have a look in the old Concordia College building, and the first photo I can go to shows what the original Lutheran College looked like, 1890s through to about 1905, and for some reason this particular building survived on the site. The rest of that building, I don't know if it was demolished or was destroyed by fire or something, but eventually became the site of the Murtoa Hospital, which was only like a bush nursing hospital. It wasn't very high tech, but at least they could deal with your basic ailments. So they've set this up with a lot of family portraits and things that have been donated to the museum from various local families. The Murtoa area, I think I mentioned, was settled predominantly by German farming families, so there was a large Lutheran area. Oh look, Christine's made an appearance.
Hello.
Speaking of Germans. So we'll have a bit of a look around here. There's a lot of stuff that really just interests local families because of the historical connections they have. But there's also some pretty cool stuff in here. It's a great home to keep all this stuff, because a lot of towns don't have anywhere where you can keep the local history, particularly of the pioneering families. You going to play us a tune, Christine?
No, I was going to read a book.
Oh, another magnificent pump organ. That looks in pretty good condition. Beautifully made. I was going to show you guys in this room, probably the thing of most interest is the old Murtoa manual telephone exchange. Now, Murtoa has the dubious honour of being the last exchange in Australia to actually go automatic. So back in the 70s, they still used this manual exchange. And from what I can gather, and I'll take you through it, this is my understanding of how it works. If you picked up your telephone, you would hear the operator through a little headpiece like this ask for the number. They would say, "Number please." And I guess whatever number you called from lit up. So if you picked up your handset, let's say number 65 lit up, they would reach a plug and plug into 65. And if you wanted to call, let's say number 33, because my dad ran the grocery store in the 70s and the shop number was number 33, they would plug another cord into, I don't know which is 33, that one maybe. So then that would connect your number with the number you wanted to talk to, and you would be then connected and you would be able to talk. Of course, the operator would be able to listen, and I think the ladies that ran the manual exchange knew everything that was going on in the local town, be that good or bad. And then I guess when your call was finished, they disconnected you. So pretty cool. The advantage of that was if the phone rang, and I can remember it happening on our farm, if the phone rang and you raced inside to answer it and you didn't get there in time, you could actually pick it up and ask the operator who just called, and they would connect you back through. So it had its advantages. It was pretty cool, but certainly technology's come a long way. But it's nice that that's preserved. Here's some of the older phones, and we had a black phone almost identical to that as I was growing up on the farm. Earlier ones had an actual crank handle, which that one has, which has its own little generator to make another phone ring. But there we go. The last automatic exchange, and I think last manual exchange, and I think Mum told me that we were one of the first in the area to get the NBN. I'm not sure on that one. But anyway, there's some nice old chemist bottles and things in the cabinet here. You're probably getting some bad reflection. There's some early phone stuff as well as a Morse code tapper. So, oh, and even a clock. You guys know I like clocks. I've got one like that, exactly like that at home to fix. All right, we'll move on now, guys. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Just a bit of a tour around the local history that I grew up with. I know 150 years is not a long time for some of you where you live, but here, 150 years ago, it was pretty well untouched natural land, save for Aboriginal tribes and some early settlers that ran large sheep runs. So the development of this area, I'm personally connected with, of course, because my family have been farming for a long time. So I enjoy seeing all this, so I thought I'd share it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.